Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of What's New with D&H Cloud. With you once again, my name is Matt Allison, D&H Cloud Solutions Consultant. And today we're going to have a quick video for you basically highlighting some of the new vendors, some of the new features, and some of the new initiatives to be aware of when it comes to what we're doing at D&H in our cloud marketplace. So let me get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and get started and show you some of the new features in our marketplace. And this one is near and dear to my heart, and that is the way that you actually order and become and get the correct authorization for an Azure subscription. So to explain very briefly, when you create an Azure subscription, there are several different levels of authentication that you as the reseller would normally need to make when you're creating the account. However, up until now, that has been not difficult, but there's been quite a few hoops that you'd have to jump through in order to get to that point. You see, you would have to first establish a relationship between yourself and your customer in the eyes of Microsoft, so that create an actual reseller relationship between you and them. You'd also need to establish D&H as your indirect CSP provider. And then even after you've done all of these things, once you have actually processed an Azure CSP subscription, often you still would not receive co-ownership of that subscription that you would just purchase. So then there are additional steps. So a lot of this, it can be done manually, but it's time consuming. And as I said, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. So we're very pleased to announce that with work with our platform manufacturer also, we were able to kind of automate a lot of these functions. So the first one I'm going to show you is very straightforward, and it's something that's been around for a little while. Perhaps a lot of you out there are using it now, and if you're not, I absolutely encourage that you do. And that is called the Indirect Reseller Experience Service. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use the live site here on a demo account that we have created. The idea is for this first service, the Indirect Reseller Experience, is it's a service that you would attach to your reseller account. It's normally you would select one of the customers underneath your account and you would add services to them. We're going to do it different this time. We're actually adding this service to your parent account. So anyway, select your name, which usually reside at the top. Excuse me. Click on New Service, and once this comes up, we're going to search for Indirect Reseller Experience. So simply just start typing indirect. It'll be the first thing that pops up here. So like I said, this is something that is unique to D&H, unique to our platform, and what this will facilitate, and this is very, very simple. You just kind of go through these steps and enter in the tenant ID. In this case, the tenant ID is your tenant ID. This is, in a sense, establishing a connection between you and D&H. So if you were to go to Microsoft's Partner Center, you would actually see this connection. You would see D&H as your indirect provider. But more importantly, what this does is each time that you add a customer account to this platform and then you attach their Microsoft tenant, it automatically establishes that reseller relationship between you and your customer. So I'm not going to continue through this. It's very straightforward. Like I said, you just put in the tenant ID, which this is the .onmicrosoft.com admin label. And once that is submitted, it only takes about a minute or two to provision, and then that service will continue. So then once you have that, you're going to want to create customer accounts, of course, add their tenants, and then create subscriptions for them. Well, let's say you want to then make an Azure subscription. As I mentioned before, you as the reseller would have the ability to order this Azure subscription for your customer. It's $0, of course. What this is actually doing is establishing essentially the payment method. This is a payment option for this particular Azure customer to funnel all of their charges through. And so that's the whole idea. You want to make sure that those charges are being funneled through you, the reseller. But we want to make sure that you have essentially delegated administration over your customer. That's the only real way that you can be that added value for your customer, not just a place for them to order an Azure subscription. So in order to do that, you're going to want to add the brand new service, which is simply called Azure Delegated Administrator. So for that, you simply find an Azure subscription. And I think on this demo, I'm really just going to show you the steps. I'm not actually going to go through everything. As you can see, this Azure subscription hasn't provisioned. But what I can do, at least to show you, is once I actually have the Azure subscription selected and I click on New Service, I'll get a new selection of services that I wouldn't have seen. These are add-on services. Often you'll have a service like Office or something like that where you can add on additional services, say, I don't know, like a phone system or something like that. These add-on services, keep in mind, are not going to show up when you just click on New Service, like you just want to order them a service. You need to attach it to whatever it's being added on to. And that's the case here with this delegated administrator as well. As you can see, we also have Azure RI in here as well. I would love to talk to you about that, and I could spend easily an hour. So if you have any questions, please reach out. Email cloudtech@dnh.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me and my counterparts, and we'll talk your ear off. Everything that you'd want to know about RI or reserved instance is one phone call away. But we're trying to take care of this administration. So we simply select this service, move on to the next, to the final step here, and add the delegated administrator account. So this is the only step that tends to trip people up. With the previous step, you used an ID, so it's pretty simple. All you need to know is what their essentially their tenant name, their subdomain name is, and you just put that in. It's very simple. This one is actually looking for an object ID. These are one of the notorious Microsoft 30 or so alphanumeric character descriptors that you need to put in here. And this is going to be the object ID of the actual administrative account for your customer. So if you have a close relationship with the customer, if you're already working with them to administer their accounts, this shouldn't be too hard for you to get. Otherwise, you are going to want to, if you want to use this, reach out to the customer and make sure that you get their administrative credentials. Because ultimately, you want to go to Azure, then you're going to want to bring up the Azure Active Directory, find the administrator on the account, okay, and then it's actually right here in the overview screen, right underneath the actual tenant ID, which is what we were talking about before, is the object ID number for this account. I'm going to simply copy this and paste it back here. And that is really the only information that you need. Once you do that, you hit next, review the order, and as you can see, it's free of charge. And it's that simple. You just simply copy that ID in, and then essentially that makes you a co-owner of that subscription. Now, obviously, some of you might be thinking you should already, since you're the one placing the order, and I agree. Until that process is in place via APIs through Microsoft, we're going to take a couple extra steps, but this service is to help you automate that. You can do all of this manually, but it's a lot more time consuming. So this is there to help you. What it also does, and this is a really big aspect of it, is it establishes you as what Microsoft is referring to as an AOBO, or an admin on behalf of. This is all part of their modern workplace, their modern Azure experiment, where they understand finally that it's a two-tier system, that there's a lot of resellers that are supporting their customers through Azure. And so this gives you that delegated administration over the subscription, over their directory, and of course over the rest of their licensing. If you have any other questions about all of this, absolutely reach out to us. We can do additional demos, we can explain the process a little further. But let's go ahead and move on to our next subject, which is some of the new vendors that we were able to bring on in the last few months since the last time I spoke to you. So the first vendor that I want to talk about is one called LionGuard. Now, a lot of you out there may be familiar with them already. They're very popular right now in terms of document creation and management. They have a product called RAR, which is the single product that we carry, that they make. It is priced by the number of sites. So ultimately, the bigger the opportunity, It will scale up the cost, but of course, more pricing questions, reach out to us. We have a vendor business manager who is in charge of the line, who absolutely knows everything about it and can answer all of your questions. But essentially what it is it's a database for all of your documentation, whether they be technical, legal in nature. And the idea is that you can place them in this database and allow for alerts to be made and reporting and analyzation of those of your documentation. The next vendor is actually really just a new product line from an existing vendor. That is Dropbox. Dropbox recently acquired a e-signature vendor called HelloSign, and their product's pretty awesome. It's actually one of the simplest and intuitive ways for you to be able to send electronic signature requests from your own organization. You can send it to employees, to new prospects, obviously to new customers and partners. But it allows you to also integrate it directly into a large list of ERP software, of documentation software, general office software. You can directly integrate HelloSign into, of course, Dropbox. But in addition to that, Box, HubSpot, Slack, as well as ERP software like Salesforce. You can integrate it into even like Gmail and G Suite products, as well as a lot of others. So it's a really versatile product. More questions, absolutely, reach out to us. We want to answer them. We're excited to bring HelloSign in. So the last thing I want to talk to you about isn't exactly a new vendor. It's certainly something that I've mentioned in previous videos, and we have a lot of existing customers out there, but there's not enough. Frankly, there's not enough. And it's something that when I was putting together my notes as to some of the things that I wanted to discuss, this was high. This was high on the list. What I want to talk about is SkyKick, but specifically the importance of backing up your Office 365. So at this time, D&H, we have several tens of or hundreds of thousands of seats at this point of Office 365, and a very small percentage of those are actually using any kind of backup software. And I really couldn't stress enough how important it is in order to just simply have a retention policy for email, for calendar events, for all kinds of things that get moved in and out of an office environment. First of all, it's something that's not considered often, which is accidental deletion. So obviously this is the user error, but this is probably the most common issue when it comes to having to retrieve data. Now, a lot of you out there might be thinking, but doesn't Office have its own retention policy? And you're absolutely right, it certainly does. Exchange Online, by default, will keep all deleted emails for up to 14 days, and you can actually extend that out to a maximum of 30 days by going into the configuration and setting it that way. But that's it, just 30 days. And now, 30 days is something, but for a lot of organizations, if a legal organization, medical, a lot of places where in order to meet compliance regulations, they need to be able to have a much longer term of retention. So that's where an organization like SkyKick comes in. In addition, there are all kinds of additional security threats from internal and external security threats. Again, we've already mentioned user error, but what happens if a user opens a corrupted file or something and risks the critical data being lost or destroyed? Of course, you always have the concern of malware, viruses, and other sorts of external threats. But then finally, for those of you out there who are using Exchange Online, but it's in a hybrid solution, this is just the ultimate way to create a relatively inexpensive cloud-based backup solution for both of those solutions, for that entire hybrid solution. And to add to that, SkyKick has provided us with a real excellent incentive. Essentially, for every copy of SkyKick migration that you purchase, you get the backup for free. So, in my opinion, there's no risk here. If you are looking for an opportunity, if you're discussing an opportunity and you're looking for a solution in terms of migrating an on-prem Exchange server to the cloud, and you need assistance with that initially, SkyKick is a great option for that in and of itself. It's a really simple user interface in order to navigate, in order to understand what they're doing in terms of migration, even if it's the first time that you've ever migrated data from an Exchange box. And then, of course, then once you have everything migrated, it will go right into the backup process and allow you to further secure that new transition that you made. So this is even extra added value that you can offer your customer who is probably, if they're migrating to the cloud, if they're migrating their email, really sort of nervous and has a little bit of trepidation for that move to begin with. You can assure them even further by showing them your extended retention period and your extended backup policy. So with that, like I said, that was going to be our short video for you today. I hope you found some of it informative, some of it entertaining, and of course, I expect that you're going to have quite a few questions. So hang around. We're going to have a live Q&A following the summing up of this webcast. And again, of course, as always, if you ever have any questions at all, email cloudtech@dnh.com. That goes to myself and the rest of my tech colleagues, or cloudsolutions@dnh.com, and that will go to myself as well as the rest of the cloud team. So until next time, have a great one.